Hey guys, this is a pure rant on my experience and what I think of LeetCode as someone who's trying to find, as someone who has worked in startups, multiple startups, as a data scientist, and now trying to transition to software engineering, and trying to find a role and having to do LeetCode and having to just go through all the topics and understand and practice all these topics and what I generally think of this. And there's always okay, I'll talk about that, but I think this is a subtopic of, an overarching topic, which is like lead code versus projects, right? Which one should you do? Lead code versus project. Which one should you do? And I think there's been there are a lot of opinions on this from a lot of good engineers out there if you look into it. But I think this video we will talk. I really want to add my opinion to what I think of this particular topic, lead code versus project. And obviously, as you can tell, I'm in a bit when switching jobs. Currently, I was doing freelancing, and now I'm really trying to find a role. And yesterday, I had a technical interview which I really bombed, and which really showed me okay, man, this algorithm shit, this lead code shit is real. Doesn't matter how good your CV is, if you can't do your algorithms, yeah, man, next man wins. Which is weird because if you try to practice lead code, right? If you go into lead code and if you know what if you're lead coding, then there's a lot of topics, man. You got the arrays, hashes, which is kind of basics. I mean, I haven't practiced them, but you got different algorithms. You got tree algorithms. You got try. You got disjoint sets. You got dynamic. There's a lot of topics, and you're expected to be good in these. Have a fundamentally strong grasp of these topics, and during interview. And my personal opinion is coming from a startup background, right, where having worked in ever since I've graduated, I've only worked in startups. So my first internship, it was in a startup as a data science intern, right, and then I got a data scientist role also in a startup. Literally, they were building an MVP, and then after building an MVP, we started building a real product. So it was a pure startup, and then after that, moving into after building my own startup type of thing, agency type of thing. So also a very startup vibe, right? And then going on to another startup to kind of doing. So it's startup world. I've always been a startup world. I haven't been to a big corporate world. So what they have preached into my psyche is that working the startup, my psyche has understood. I've become one with the lean method. When you work at startup, people preach about staying lean. When I say staying lean, I mean the essence is build what you really build a base, build the basic stuff, the most important stuff, and iterate, build small, iterate, and improve. Don't just try to just don't. Basically, the idea is don't try to think of 20 different features in your head and then try to implement 20 different features that might take 6 or 7 months and then launch. Right, that's probably a bad idea. So by staying lean, what I mean is just build what really is needed for it to function, and then just fly with it, and then iterate in a cyclic loop, right? This also preached an idea hey, there's so many things there's so many things you can kind of build, but you don't have to, right? Which is another, which translates to, hey, there's so many things you need to learn, right? There's so many technologies you need to learn. In a startup, you probably to build a startup, I need to learn how to I need to learn Kubernetes to manage clusters, and I need to learn microservices and yada yada yada. Yes, these are all really good things to learn in that sense, and it's a good idea, but not now. build that small feature, like, and like build, just take whatever is from you have, like, take whatever from, items from the toolbox and start building it. Like, you don't need to like learn the whole shelf of like tools, right? And to like, before building this, like, don't focus on learning all the tools. Just focus on building this small feature and use the tools. Use and go and learn the tools that are required to build that particular feature. And build it fast, and don't focus on perfection, and iterate, right? So basically the idea is like, learn the tools that you need to build that, to solve that specific problem at one at a time, right? So that has been literally like ingrained in my psyche, and that's how I approach most of my learnings, whether it's like learning machine learning, learning deep learning, whatever. So far it always has been like, hey, I'm going to like only learn the things that I need right now and forget about everything else, which has downsides and upside to it. But hey, that's a lean method. I mean, you gotta, if you're sticking with if you're going with the lean method, if you're taking advantage of the positive, then you have to be okay with the negatives. And I was okay with the negatives until now, right? LeetCode seems to be like, oh man, the way people are approaching LeetCode online that I see now is like, there are like 20 different topics, 30 different topics, and literally you gotta grind and hustle all these topics and understand, be really good at it. And like, bro, like, I'm like, that goes so against my fundamental understanding of software engineering and what I've been taught working in these startups. It's like, sure, I mean, okay, cool. I mean, yes, learning these topics by heart and like really getting really good at it would make you a solid good fundamentalist, right? It will have a solid fundamental grasp of things. But the truth is, like, how much of these are actually used? How much of this is actually used to build that specific feature you need? Right? That's like, that is the conundrum that I'm kind of dealing with. Like, yo, I gotta do LeetCode. I gotta be like, on online. Like, everyone's preaching, hey, you gotta do these topics. You got these neetcode.io. I'm not throwing shade at neetcode.io or Blind75. These are really good things. I'm so blessed they exist, right? But things like, hey, do I really need to know all these topics, man? Do I like what? I just feel like it goes against the idea of staying lean. I mean, sure, you gotta know your basics, right? Like plus minus division, which is literally like, arrays, hashes, what map, like depth for search, breadth for search, right? Maybe even a little bit of dynamic programming, right? And a little bit of trees, because everything is in trees. But like beyond that, like, bro, like I just don't. I feel like beyond these topics, I just feel like it just defeats the purpose of. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's not lean. You're using a lot of resource, right? You're using a lot of resource, which is time, to learn these topics and spend a huge amount of hours in topics, whereas compared to which you could be spending the same time doing something really valuable, like building projects and getting like real world skills, right? That will actually be used in your work. But the internet, I don't know, man. The sense I got from like being doing LeetCode for like a couple of like weeks now is like, hey, you gotta grind LeetCode, and there's like these 27 topics, or like, I don't know, 20 topics, and you gotta be really good at it. Like, you gotta be proficient at it. Which really, like, it goes against the lean ideology that I kind of really subscribe to. Because some of the topics you barely use it. You will rarely use it in an actual job. So it's like, why spend so much time learning it now, like when you don't even need it in the future? You know what I'm saying? I mean, sure, you can be aware of it. Like, I mean, I can see a positive side. With that said, I can see a positive side, like of actually learning it, like, and being aware that such solution exists, and just being good. But like, I just feel like it's not lean. It's not lean, brother. Lean. Why not, like, like when you come across a problem and then like use, explore these data structures, but like, yeah, man, I don't know, man. I just like every time I leak code, like I feel that I'm getting better at like solving problems. However, there's a piece of me where I'm like, fuck, I could be spending this time like doing project, like going to my Figma board, doing projects. I think the healthy answer to this, everyone knows, it's a cliche. It's like you should be doing both, right? You should be doing both, and that is, I think, it all comes down to you should be doing both. But what is that split? Like what? Like I just disagree with some of the people out there with like idea of like you should be grinding lead code, and you have these 20 topics. I don't know why industry like the tech industry such about like vouches on this idea of like, hey, you gotta like learn these obscure topics that like you might ever use, you might not ever use. Yeah. So with that said, like, I mean, I understand if you want to. With that said, like, if you're applying to FANG or like these high tier companies, right? Like, sure, you gotta. I mean, there's huge competition. I mean, they have to select a lot of candidates, and so, I'm just gonna throw some hard ass like or some obscure data structure and see how they react, right? But I think that process, like applying to FANG, the process has to be stretched over time, in my opinion, and it shouldn't. I think it's a really unhealthy approach to kind of just like lead code for like 12, 8 hours the whole fucking like day, every single day until you get a FANG job. I think I totally disagree with that. I think you should build up over time and split time between projects and lead code. Which I think people on the internet don't really like. I don't know, man. I just feel like I didn't get that sense. I mean, I think there is like Primogen who really vouches for projects, right? And I think his ideology is like, okay, just learn the shit, like the basic shit you need to know, and then just move on to projects, right? I mean, learn the basic data structures and algorithm, and just move on to projects. Like, stop be dicking around in LeetCode, right? That's what he says, and I kind of agree with that to a certain extent. Like, yo, stop. Like, but it seems that like if you wanna, but it seems to not be the case. Like it doesn't work if you are like applying for FANG and whatnot. Like, you need to know these obscure topics, and some people really like, been pushing that agenda of like, yo, you gotta grind every single day, 109. Like, yo, let's do it. Lead code every single day, every hour of the day. If projects, like, it's like, I don't know, man. I just feel like I need to find a balance in my life, like personally, like of like doing projects as well. And I think lead code can take you so far. But then I have another opinion, so I'm kind of biased too. Like, I'm not quite sure this is why I'm making this rant. It's like, there's a part of me, there's another voice in my head that says like, hey bro, if your objective is to, there's a part of me in my voice, this is what it's saying. If your objective is to get a job, right? Like, well, you need to first get an interview, right? And then pass the interview, right? To get the interview, you need, your CV needs to be good. Like, CV needs to be good with, some bomb-ass projects and whatnot, right? That really stands out. And for that, you need projects. And once you have these interviewers calling you, or like, decent amount of interviews coming your way, like from the market, then you can kind of like pause on the project for a while and just kind of hard code, LeetCode, right? I mean, that seems to be, I don't know, maybe like that's an idea that like has been going around in my head. I know it's not new. I'm sure people have thought about the same logic, but I wonder how much of that is actually good. Like, what is that good or is that bad? Like, I'm sure maybe it's both to a certain extent. But yeah, so I'm kind of conflicted. I mean, if I do that, then it's like hard coding LeetCode for a couple of months. Shit, I don't know, man. Like, I think my currently what I'm doing is like I'm just LeetCoding, so I feel like really guilty. I'm just LeetCoding and like effing like like the projects that I was building, and just put a halt on the projects that I was building, and I feel really guilty that I did that, and I'm speaking to myself, and I don't want to tell anyone anything else but myself. Like, literally, I know you'll be watching, the future me will be watching this video, so listen to this, man. Like, hey, don't not like put a halt on the projects. I know you feel guilty. Like there's a part of me, piece of me dying just every single day. Like, I want to do projects. Like I wanted to learn TRPC, like, and then like connect, like all that stuff. Like, but then it never happened because I started like LeetCoding, and like now I'm like getting addicted. I can really feel getting addicted to LeetCode because it's like instant gratification. Every single question I do, it's like, this is not healthy. So yeah, that's this is an unramble rant, unscripted. So my thoughts are very sporadic. Sporadic. I don't know how to. Okay. Anyway. So yeah, LeetCode versus projects. I really think. I don't know. Like I said, like there's a small voice in my head saying, "Hey, if the market is giving you signals, then like you should be focusing on. You should be focusing on like LeetCode every single day and Python projects, right? However, there's a piece of me that kind of like disagrees with that because of lean method, bro. Lean method. Actually, wait. Okay, cool. Also, another thing is I noticed is like I really want to say this is like perhaps like again lean method. Perhaps like you don't need to study all the topics, right? For example, if you look at the LeetCode, he has a LeetCode.io, right? LeetCode.io, you have all these topics. Go through them. It won't take you that long, right? Because he has a video, so you can't. If you can't, just watch the video. It won't get too long. But after that, you should be really focused. I should be really focusing on the core topics like breadth first search, depth first search, going through medium problems, hard problems, right? Dynamic programming, all these like literally these two topics. I've been on an interview, a couple of interviews, and all I've noticed is literally these topics coming up again and again. Like literally, I've not been asked any linked list, none of that bull crap, right? I've just been asked like, can you like obscure depth first search, breadth first search questions, and I've always been bombing it. I have no idea why. Partly because I've been trying to like flex depth first search, and which is pretty bad idea in interview, like because in my head for some reason like just bombs out when I have to think about recursion in under a pressure situation. So that's a quick note. I will not be using depth first search unless I need to. Just stick with breadth. As more, I think the implementation of breadth first search is much more reasonable and understandable. I think because you can just read through like right the while loop. Anyway, that's a side note, but yeah, man, I mean like. If you look at that, the point I was trying to make was like, hey, if you look at the distribution of the question that are being asked, right, like the mean, right, would fall around like the mean questions that are mean topics that are being asked, or the topics around the mean would be like depth first search, breadth first search, dynamic programming. Maybe a little bit of binary search, hash, like all that stuff, like the basic stuff, right? So just focus on that. Unless you're going for FANG interviews, I mean, sure, like, go for it, right? But then, if you're going for FANG interviews, like, I hope you've been doing LeetCode and you've been stretching over time. So in breadth research, like, these basic topics are like second nature to you at this point, and so you have time to explore or like other stuff. It's almost like, addition and subtraction. It's like addition, subtraction, multiplication, like basic nature, like for you, and like, yeah, explore other topics because you're stretched over so much time. However, if you're just like applying to a generic like place like Tesco's, bro, like, just focus on like core topics. I think, which I failed to do, and now I'll be like putting my a lot of resource in just like doing all these core topics and really getting familiar with these topics, and staying lean. Again, staying lean. I just want to learn what I have to learn and just get the GTFO, right? And I just want to learn the topics that I want in GTFO, and once I get in, then I'll slowly be ramping up doing other topics, right? But for now, it's like, if you ask me survival wise, like, just learn the topics that I need to learn, and then just GTFO. System design and all that stuff, bro. I feel like you can learn it at the job. If you're applying for junior, bro, like, you can just learn things at the job. And the things that you can learn, like, you have to like read up on, like, you have to be generally curious on like how other systems are being built, and slowly you get like different, you get a sense of like what to use, what to not, how how different systems are built, right? Like how message queues and like message streams and like distributed queues, like all these stuff, right? Like, will work because you're just naturally curious. I think that's a better way to kind of learn, rather than like just spending like next 6 months I'm just gonna learn system design, and like there will be like a lot of 90% will be a lot of garbage. I mean, not garbage, but like things that we'll never use. But hey, I'm gonna spend 6 months just trying to learn this. This is not school, mate. This is literally not school. This is like you taking control and responsibility of how your learning goes. And I know, like, it's very tempting to like use the same methods we were taught in school to kind of learn, take the same approach to LeetCode and system design and get a roll. Like, but I think that's invalid. I think you should be more lean, meaning not try to waste your resource, which is time, on topics that you will never use or that will never use in an interview, or like, so in essence what I'm trying to say is, like, look at the distribution of, like, go for some interviews, look at some distribution of questions that keep coming up, topics keep coming up, and just like like go hardcore on those small topics and be really good at those small topics, and wait, but you can ask me, hey, but what if, like, an interview what if an interview pops up, I get some really obscure topic that I didn't prepare because because you told me to only prepare for small topics. Well, it's a game of probability, dude. Out of 10 interviews you do, like, if you get like one interview like with like some triads, like questions, like obscure, like disjoint set, whatever, like segment tree, whatever, right? Then, well, bad luck. Right? It's like, it's a game of probability, man. Like, it's lean, you gotta iterate, yeah. I mean, that's my 2 cents. So project versus LeetCode, I think I really want to say the right way is to kind of, after you start getting interviews, like, maybe put like at least like 80% of the time in like LeetCode, and then like 20 in projects, because you really don't want to lose, like, forget how to do projects, right? Because yeah, so that's my 2 cents on this. And let me know what you guys think in the comments. Peace out.